From the classroom to today, we're reconnecting on the way, sharing stories, dreams, and paths, discovering the impact that lasts. The impact that lasts. The stories unfold, lives transformed, futures bold.
Welcome to the Impact That Lasts. Over 20 years ago, I had the privilege of teaching high school students who were just beginning their journey. Today, we are reconnecting to see where life has taken them and what lessons have stayed with them all these years. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing you to Nydia. So, Nydia, first question. How old were you when we first met?
I was 16 years old.
16 years old. So, do you remember what class I even taught you? Because I taught several different things at the high school.
Of course, you taught med surge.
Oh, med surge. Okay. So, what was it like being in my classroom?
Being in your classroom definitely held a presence. When I first met you, we were right in front of the door. You were letting the students in. And first thing I noticed about you, you were young. And then once class got started and you were going over the expectations, it was very clear that you came with an energy of confidence. You could tell that you had some kind of military background, and definitely that it was, what have I just got myself into? Because she is going to give it to us.
It's funny you said that because I do have a military background, and it's not the first time that I've heard that. But at that point, at any point, did you think that I was mean, being that I was young, but I was older than you were?
No, because I come from a military background. My dad is in the military and all my uncles were. So I'm very accustomed to people being assertive, that air of confidence when you see military people. And for me, it automatically gave me trust, structure, uh, the confidence to be in there and say, like, okay, like I know she means business, so put on game face.
Right. So that was what, about 28 years ago?
Yes, it was 28 years
28
ago.
years ago. That is amazing. So what do you think was most impactful about me being your teacher?
The most impactful, you had a way of teaching that allowed us to have memory aids, so to speak. And it may sound very small, but I could tell you a couple of things that have repeated throughout my nursing career. Something so small as you taught us about hypocalcemia. And you went over Trousseau's Chevrolet.
I believe you still remember that.
I still remember that. And
Nice.
it wasn't just that. There's quite a few things. It was we were going over musculoskeletal, and you went over uh lordosis, kyphosis, and scoliosis.
I don't even remember that.
That was
Okay.
another one. And then we did one, you made us create songs. You made us create songs. So I remember specifically you divided the class in half, and each group had to create a song. So our group created a song on gout. And this was specific around R. Kelly era. And the song at that time was called Down Low. So we created a song with that tune around gout. And I think it was one of the few times I'm like, you were literally cracking up on how we created this song with such a few minutes. It made it really a whole like song. It was hilarious.
Nice,
It really.
nice. So you graduated were you 17 or 18?
I graduated at 18,
And
January.
what did you do right after high school?
Right after high school, I started working in a hospital as an aide. And then because I did not actually pass my boards at first, I had to wait. And that was one of the challenges that I had, which was interesting because it was being immature at the time. So I did take my boards after, and then I became an LPN, then an RN, and so forth.
So you may have got caught up because back then when we were taking boards, we had to wait 6 months. It wasn't like now where they wait 45 days.
That's
So
true too.
that's probably what made you a little bit even more held up because you couldn't take it right away. So if you had to look back, what would you tell your 17-year-old self?
Whew. At the age of 44, I've learned a lot of lessons. And there's three things that come to mind. One is create systems for yourselves because creating systems will always give you consistency. Address your feelings because it will always help with your mental health. And be kind to your body because after 30, I tell you, it just does not feel the same.
I'm going to take you back to the creating systems. Could you give me an example of a system that you created or you could suggest for somebody to create? Because what I find is a lot of people are not organized, and I happen to be very organized. I wouldn't call it systems, but I think by you sharing that, it may be able to help someone.
So, by systems, I mean creating your own rhythm, your own pattern, your own flow. I found that with being a nurse, I would take report. I found it essential to write out what the nurse was saying, and then I would attach an index card to my S bar and write a checklist of everything that I'm hearing that I need to address, my lab work, if the patient needs the patient's NPO and I need to get a diet order, those kind of things help me create a balance every day to make sure that I was organized, to help my day flow better while I was a nurse, while I was a bedside nurse.
So do you find like some nurses just come in and halfway listen to report? They may not write it down or they may not have any special routine or system, and then you feel like they may be a little bit more disorganized?
I do feel that way. I'm very adamant that writing out what you hear helps with retention as opposed to hearing it or notice that staff kind of make a copy of their SBAR sheet and give it to the next person. But then when we do interdisciplinary rounds and they are asked about their patient, the retention is not as clear or it's just not there. They have to refer back to their report sheet. Whereas I was taught to know my report sheet by writing it out. You know your patients, you know the information by assessing them, reinforces the information that you wrote down. And then documenting it further reinforces it.
So you did your bachelor's, did you do your master's? Tell me a little bit more about what your education looked like after the LPN, out of high school or whatever. Tell me about your higher education.
Sure. After my LPN, I went to Hunter College until 9/11, unfortunately. And then after that, I decided that I was going to transfer to Malloy College,
Which
which
college? Sorry, it blinked out. Which
I went to
college?
Hunter College, and then I went and transferred to Malloy College.
Malloy. Okay, I didn't hear that. Okay.
After Malloy, I went to LIU Brooklyn and obtained my master's for adult care gerontology. And
This one of your other classmates, either the year before or behind you, went to LIU as well.
oh,
So tell me what area of nursing you're working in now and what other areas in nursing did you work in as an RN?
I am a proud critical care nurse. Uh, I know who would have thought. I have been, the journey has, I started out as a float aide then became an LPN on a med-surg unit, obtained my RN, and then worked in a respiratory care unit, then transferred to the CCU at the time as an RN. Then I became the assistant nurse manager of the CCU and the ICU. Then I became the nurse manager of the ICU and CCU. Then I obtained the rapid response team, and I have also obtained a medical step down unit as well throughout my journey.
So you a big dog nurse. Like for real, for real. So what were some of the challenges you had navigating within the facility? Because I know sometimes it could be challenging to navigate certain spaces for many different reasons. What would you say was your greatest challenge climbing the ladder within your specific facility?
I honestly cannot say that I had a huge challenge. I think what helped me was becoming afloat first. And you have to be a people person, I believe. It allowed me to talk to everyone. So when it came time for me to apply for a different unit, they already knew me, already knew my work ethic, and it was easier, honestly. I can't say that I had a huge challenge. It was a matter of deciding to go from med surg to the critical care unit. Back then, we were taking med surg was on a good day 10 patients,
What is
and
it
then
now?
they take up to 5 to 6 patients.
Mm.
We would even go up. There were days we were so short, you'd go to 20 patients, you take half the unit. And you didn't have, I would say, all these resources that you have now, and we were still on paper back then. So you had to write out all your assessments. You had to write out all your SOAP notes. You had to do your care plans, those agonizing care plans.
And now it's more click, 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 click. It's easier.
Yeah, you got to update your Cardex.
Oh, Cardex, that's a word from 20 years ago. These new nurses, they don't even know what a Cardex is. So let me ask you this. Are you in contact with any new nurses, or because it's critical care, you don't see them too often?
Oh, I absolutely am. As the nurse manager, I have 2 programs that I run. One which is a new grad residency, and one that has experienced nurses for at least 1 year med surg and telemetry, and that's our fellowship.
So let me ask you a question. You've been doing critical care for how many years?
It's been about 15, 16 years.
Tell me at what point, if, and I'm not saying you have, but at what point did you see a change in the dynamic of the nurses, right? So for me, if I was your nursing teacher 30 years ago, you know that I have seen many changes. What changes have you seen in terms of the maturity, the level of preparedness? When did you see a change, or did you see a change in the new nurses?
There's been multiple changes, I would say. One change that I don't think people realize is changing from paper to electronic. So although it helps with identifying, what the doctors have written, it took a lot of attention off of paying attention to the patient. So now you're focused on a computer screen. So that for me was one change. And then the pandemic did not help anybody. I feel like after the pandemic, mental health changed. Then the quality of nursing changed. And it has been a continuous obstacle to try to be consistent and have sustainability with quality metrics. I did find that during the pandemic, because I was a manager already at the time, that because they didn't have the opportunity to do their clinicals at the bedside, it definitely took away from the quality of nurse that they became. They need that hands-on in order to, you need to touch, feel, listen, you know, to all those things. You cannot get that from a computer screen. I
And a
just,
sim and a sim
in a
sim
sim,
loss.
no, you
It's not
cannot.
the same.
You cannot. So I feel like that was like the pivotal moment of like what's happening here. So now when they're coming to the bedside, a lot of them hadn't even touched a patient. And that was a learning curve for the staff for sure, especially in critical care. You have to learn IVs. You're drawing blood, you're putting in Foley's, you're putting in NG tubes. There's so many aspects to that. And a lot of them just did not do that.
Do you see a PhD in your future?
It's a pill to swallow.
Is this
Um,
something you thought about?
it is something that I thought about. And am still thinking about. I cannot say no, never, but I'll say not right now.
That's fair. Because you know what I would tell you.
Go for the PhD.
Go for the PhD.
Mhm.
But I understand you saying not now, right? So funny story. When I turned 40, I had a 40th birthday party, and my mother stands up in the middle of my party and like, I want you to get your PhD. I'm like, who does that? This birthday party, ma, sit down. Long story short, when I turned 52, my 52nd birthday, I had an epiphany and I said, it's time to start your PhD. It took me 12 years, but I didn't do it because my mother told me to do it 12 years ago. But my point is, she planted the seed, right? So
Mhm.
I'm planting the seed today to
Mhm.
encourage you. And I know that timing is everything, right? Because when I was 40, I probably would not have been able to do it, nor was I ready, right? But at 52, I was ready. And I just took the bull by the horns and just did it. 2 years full time done, plus working full time. So nothing happens before it's time. And what else do you see in your future in the next 5 years?
Ooh, that's a low question.
Or what would
I
you like to see in 5 years?
expect to be a director in the hospital. I also expect to be a practicing nurse practitioner. I should have my own business, some form of fashion. Um, I think that's enough for the next 5 years.
I love that. I love that. And I always would encourage entrepreneurship. So I'm glad that that's one of the things that's on your agenda. So I'm looking forward to, if God gives me breath, to come back 5 years from now and let's see how many or all of those you could accomplish. Or you could be a nurse practitioner, you could have your own business, you could do whatever you want to do, right? So it was such a pleasure talking to you today, Nydia, and catching up after 28 years. I'm telling you, I've done a lot of nursing. I've done med surg. I've done OB. I've done teaching. I taught LPNs. I taught associate degree. I taught BSNs. I taught in New York. I've taught in Georgia. I've been in the hospital. I've been everywhere. But I have to tell you, there's a special, special place in my heart for the high school students. Special
Something about
place in my heart. And that is so weird because, you know, a nurse turning into a teacher to turn back into a nurse, like it was just a period of time for whatever reason well, it was a reason. My son had got diagnosed with autism, so I couldn't do the 12-hour shifts in the hospital. So the teaching was, a good segue so that I could be off weekends and be off holidays and spend the time that I needed to spend with him. And now, just like this, he's 31 and life happens, right? So, is
correct.
there anything you would want to share if there was a young person watching you right now that's in high school, that's hesitant, they don't know where they're going, they don't know what they're doing? What would you say to that 17-year-old that's watching you now?
That's watching me now. I would say anyone that is encouraging you or pointing out your potential, listen to them, hear them, thank them. Because that for me, if there weren't certain people in my life that did that for me or thought or in my potential, I don't think that I'd be in the shoes that I'm wearing today, or even thinking about the shoes I could fill in the future. To even kind of, flip it back on you, I feel like growing up, our households were your parents told you to go to school, get an education, go to college, get a job, and that was all we knew. And your parents probably did their job until they retired. And that is what we knew. But one thing I would tell you that you helped me with was you don't have to be a one-trick pony. You can do multiple things. I don't have to just be a nurse. Most bedside nurses, may stay as a bedside nurse. They may just change to a different department. Don't ask me how I became a leader. If you were to ask my 17-year-old self, I didn't see that happening. But somewhere down the line, people saw that I had the potential. And I instantly, or I would say innately, am a person that I can make a decision. I'm not thinking about it. I'm a rational, calm, actually pragmatic person. It's almost a gift and a curse, and at 17, I did not see that being my 44-year-old self.
Nice. So Nydia, it has been a pleasure speaking to you. I am so proud of you, a whole critical care nurse manager. And now you have students under your wing, so you never know what kind word that you might say to them or whatever encouragement you would give them. I can't even believe you still remember Chevestex and Trousseau sign from 28 years ago. And it's funny because when I'm teaching, I'm still doing that years later. So I also think that has helped my nursing education a lot by being a certified teacher, because every nurse is not necessarily an educator, if that makes sense. So I think those teaching years, being a certified teacher was really game changing for me. And who knows what I'm going to be doing 5 years from now. I go with the flow. If I wake up and something tells me to do this, boop, it's done. So I just want to encourage you to live your dreams, continue to be your best self. One of the 3 things you said was to take care of your health, take care of your body. We only have one body. And that's it. So in closing, a teacher touches a life for a moment, but that impact can last a lifetime. Thank you for watching The Impact That Lasts. And Nydia, thank you for sharing with us today.
Thank you so much for the invite. Truly appreciate it, and truly appreciate that you have been my teacher.
Thank you.
The impact that lasts, the stories of